Is that how you... Is your hair going to look okay?
I don't know. Does it look okay?
I can't really tell. Look, let me see.
No, it doesn't.
It's a little disheveled. Welcome to the Trad Line. I was going to try to do the high five with closed eyes, but then I thought that might not work.
We could have done it.
So I opened them. All right, let's try it again. Welcome to the Trad Line. Ooh, that was good. And we're just getting into it. We're doing a little get to know us and what we're all about.
Yeah.
Wiggity, wiggity. We want us to say how we first met.
Sure.
Right? Don't you think so?
Yeah.
The year was 2017.
Yeah.
And we met at Franciscan University. What? Do you want me?
I think it's funny that you would tell the story when I'm 10 times better at it.
No. When I told the story at the Rosary Brunch, I had everyone's attention. They were eating it up.
Okay, go ahead.
It was a transfer student to Franciscan, meaning I wasn't like going in as a freshman. I was 22. I was 22. I had done some community college. Then I was just working a full-time job, and I decided to go to Franciscan to just kind of immerse myself in a Catholic environment. Basically, I went to study theology. Also, I wanted to take a class from Scott Hahn, so. And so I did. Yeah, okay, so fall 2017 was my first semester there. First time ever leaving home, which Steubenville was like 7 to 8-ish hours away from my hometown. Mm-hmm. And I basically loved it right away. And why were you there?
I was there because Pope Francis was so confusing that I lived in Pittsburgh and worked in Pittsburgh, and he's saying, crazy things, and I didn't understand. Nobody around me had any answers or good answers, so I just felt like I had to study it. I'd always been passionate about those things. About theology and the things of the faith, yeah. And I was at a theology on tap. Huh?
We're both cradle Catholics, just to put that out there.
Yeah, we're both cradle Catholics. And so I was at a theology on tap in, I think, 2014.
In Pittsburgh?
In Pittsburgh, or 15 maybe. Scott Hahn was there and we got talking. And he's like, maybe you should consider going to grad school, applying at Franciscan and everything. Because I'd gotten into, specifically biblical theology and typology and all that sort of stuff. And the first thing I would say really what it was is that sort of confusion of not understanding the things that I thought to be true with what, like I said, some of the things that Pope Francis was saying. And, I had been raised at least in a way of like, what the Pope says goes in a certain sense. Mm-hmm. And stop. No, you gotta leave that out.
Yeah. Even though it was funny.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to finish your thought? I don't even know where you were at. But I thought you were also considering perhaps being a professor. Like going that
route. As I got there. Well, so also one thing that was true is right before I applied, I also was considering being a priest.
Yeah.
So that's part of it too. So I was discerning the priesthood through the Pittsburgh diocese.
Okay, right.
And that, I think that was the fall of 2014 into 15 is like when I went to those different meetings and retreats and things.
Okay, so by the time I got to Franciscan, you had been there for a couple years.
A year.
Okay.
Fall of 17 is when we met, and I was also full-time at that time.
Okay, so you had established yourself in the G&T group, which stands for grad and non-traditional students, and it's a group of students who are either in grad school or who have transferred in like I did. So Kyle was a grad student.
And specifically not of the normal college age.
I was in, for those of you who went to Franciscan, I had an apartment in the Heights, CC Heights, and I was going over to, I forget what like the main building is called where you get your key. It doesn't matter, but I was walking into this building to go pick up my key for my apartment, and there was a guy standing at the door, and I walked in. Do you remember who this is?
Mm-mm.
I was walking in to get my key, and he stopped me, and I was with Dominic, my little brother, and he was like, "Oh, excuse me, how old are you?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "How old are you?" And I was like, "I'm 22." And he goes, "Okay, we have this group. It's called G&T."
Is it Brendan?
No, Paul.
Oh, Paul.
He was like, "We have this group. It's called G&T, and since you're an older student, it's like just a way for you to meet other students who would be more your age."
He's like, "You seem old."
Yeah. So I was like, "Okay, that sounds good." So I went back to my roommates. I had 3 other height mates at the time, and there was a barbecue / cookout. I think it was that night. It was like a welcome barbecue. Mm-hmm. And it was in the Heights area. So we went, and the night before there was like a G&T ice cream social type thing. Or maybe it wasn't G&T. I don't know. But again, it was just like a welcome students way to meet people, which is where I met Howard, who was Kyle owned a house in Steubenville. You look like you want to kill yourself over there. You've got to look more alive, honey. Okay. This is you.
Okay.
So that's where I met Howard.
Yeah.
Kyle owned a house in Steubenville and had 2 renters or whatever, and one of them was Howard. So I met him there. Next day is the barbecue. I'm there with my 3 height mates. What's your problem?
No, I'm just smiling.
Are you just smiling because you're remembering
it?
I don't
know. Just go ahead. Continue on.
So we go to this barbecue. Kyle! What's wrong with you? Is it the heat?
I don't know. Maybe.
I think it's because we're exhausted.
Yeah,
we're just a couple of parents.
Yeah. I'm more of a parent because I've been up since earlier than you.
Well, I was up
since 2.
About every 30 minutes last night.
So that's a lot of 30 minutes of sleep.
Okay, I'm at the barbecue with my roommates. We're in line to get food, and this man I see up in the line cuts into the line. And so me, being me, I yell ahead and I say, "Hey, back in the line, buddy." And I was doing it mostly as a joke. Like, yes, oh my. In all your years of knowing me, have I ever shouted to anyone, "Get in the back of the line"? I mostly did it because I was with my new roommates, and I was like, this will be funny while I'll chuckle. And the guy who I'm yelling at probably won't even hear me. And if he does, it's going to be nothing. But Kyle, went to the back of the line. All I remember is I said, hey, back in the line, buddy. And you went to the back of the line. And then I remember being like, oh, oops, now I feel kind of bad. So we both remember it a little differently.
Yeah.
Moral of the story is I yelled at you.
Yeah.
And Howard, the guy that I met the night before, then I was standing talking to him, and he said, oh, hey, I want you to meet someone. Called you over. Comes walking over, and I was like, oh, snap. That's the guy that I just yelled at to get in the back of the line. So he comes over, and of course, I'm used to your height now, but back then I remember being like, this guy's big. And kind of intimidating. And so I said, hi, I'm Olivia. And Kyle, I'll try to do my best impression, but he just kind of did this, hi, I'm Kyle. Just kind of deadpan. And I was like, okay. And that was it. That was it, right? You said, we said hi, and I think I started talking to the girls, I think, and you kind of walked away. Megan thought that you were really old. She was like, why is this old guy? I didn't think you were that old, but I did think you were really big and serious.
Which is hilarious because Howard was 15 years older than I am.
So that happened, and then we didn't see each other on campus. So that was late August. We didn't see each other on campus at all that whole semester. Well, sorry, not that whole semester, but until we saw each other again, which was a couple months. Yeah, about 2 months. Yeah. About 2 months exactly, almost.
Basically, yeah.
Didn't see each other at all. And then G&T, that same group, was they were hosting a Halloween party at a house up the hill in Steubenville. And so we almost didn't go, by the way. Did you know that?
Nope.
So me and my 3 height mates we're going to go to this party. We're all getting ready. And then kind of last minute, we're like, do we really feel like going to this party? We're kind of like, it's probably not going to be that good. And we can just, I don't know, not go. But we went. We all piled into my car and we went. And the party was just like really lame. There was basically no music going, or there was like jazz music and just not that many people there. And so we kind of said as a group, all right, we'll stay a little bit and then we're going to go. And then out of nowhere, I'm standing in the kitchen, in this tiny kitchen, talking to someone. And out of nowhere, I look over and actually, no, I was like mid-conversation with the person.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm being interrupted. And it's Kyle. And he's like in this doorway. The doorways in this house were tiny. And Kyle was huge. And he was dressed as a construction worker with his real work boots and like real work belt on. Because they were renovating his house.
Yeah.
So he was like, okay, construction worker. Busts through this little doorway and is like, hey, ask some question. Something about probably the speakers. Because Kyle, I didn't know this, but he had shown up to the party, seen that it was lame, went back to his house to get his speakers, and brought them there to set up. And so you were asking him some question. And so he asked this question. I looked at him, and I was like, I said to him, who are you supposed to be? Paul Bunyan? And I kind of poked him. And I was just being goofy. Yeah. And Kyle was like, no, I'm a construction worker. And I was like, okay. Like, again, it felt like another, like, shoot down. Yeah. I think what I was expecting from you when I said back of the line, buddy, was for you to be like, ha, funny, you know? Yeah. But you were like, you took it literally. And then same with the Paul Bunyan thing, where I was like, oh, Paul Bunyan?
Yeah, classic girls thinking they're funnier than they
No,
are.
that's not what it... I expected you to be like, no, I'm not Paul Bunyan. But he's like, no.
I didn't like you, so.
Okay, so then that was like strike 2. And then he got the speakers going. Kyle basically single-handedly brought this party to life. Yeah. And so I was like, who is this guy? Because every interaction I'd had with him, which they were just a couple times, but was very much like bland, boring. Like, I don't know, just... not fun or funny, to put it bluntly. So I go into the living room, and Kyle is in the middle of a group of people, DJing from his phone, dancing, pulling people up to dance. I'm like, oh, this guy, he's drunk. He's probably had like at least a few drinks, and he's just like, you know. So I go up to him again. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get him this time. I was like, hey, how many drinks have you had? And he was like, again, dead serious. I don't know, like 1 or 2. Why? And I was like, well, when I first met you, just like seemed like you had no personality, and now you seem like fun. Like you seem like you have a personality. And we talked a little bit more that night. You danced with me because you are like obsessed with me at that point. And then no, I'm just kidding. You danced with everyone. But yeah, and then the cool part was after we met that Halloween night, we ran into each other every single day, 10-ish days in a row, completely unplanned. And so that's kind of our meeting story. We ran into each other every day for 10 days. We were always with other people. We were never, in those 10 days, it was never like hanging out by ourselves. Megan was with us.
Well, I don't even know. Yeah. I feel like it was right before Thanksgiving, like maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, where we did something just us. It was usually in groups. And then and then when we got back from Thanksgiving break, wasn't it pretty much right when we got back? We were just like, all right.
Yeah. So Thanksgiving break, Kyle went back to Jersey, where he's from, and I went back to Illinois, and my two of my hype mates came with me. And then one of my friends from home came back with me to Steubenville.
Right, that's what happened.
And I remember the whole way driving back, I was like, I love my friend, but I wish she wasn't coming, because all I want to do is go back and like hang out with Kyle. Yeah,
and so was the first time we went to breakfast, I thought that's when Brenda was there. I don't remember.
I don't remember the first time, if the first time we went to breakfast was before or after Thanksgiving, but if it was before, it was just that one time, I think.
Yeah, okay.
So my friend comes back.
We went to a place called Touch of Elegance, which has been burnt to the ground.
Yeah, it burnt down in a fire. So our first date place is not there anymore. But yeah, I remember telling Brenda like, oh, I have this morning class. It starts at this time. It ends around this time. And that was a little bit of a fib because I made it longer so that I could get breakfast with you and not feel bad that she was probably still sleeping anyways. But yeah, and then she was there for, I want to say 3 days, something like that. And then the night she left, Kyle, you were over at our apartment. We were all hanging out together, all the roommates and my friend. Roommates go to bed. My friend leaves to go home. Yeah, and then we just were talking about each of our breaks. And what happened was the way that we because we in all that hanging out had never really acknowledged that like we liked each other or that we were going to date or anything. And I was like kind of nervous around you because I already was like in love with you and had told my mom. I think this was like day 3 or 4 of us running into each other. I was on the phone with my mom, or maybe it was a little bit more, like maybe a week, but I was like, I'm gonna sound totally crazy, but there's this guy here and we're not dating. I don't even know if he likes me, but I think I'm gonna marry him. Because of that, for me, there was like so much on the line because I was like, I don't even know if he likes me, but at the same time I'm gonna marry him, so I have to make sure, you know.
That's funny.
So I was a little more nervous around you, but you had kind of said, like, you kept asking me, what did you tell your mom about me? And then I was like, well, what did you tell your parents about me? Because I had met your dad at that point, because he was in Steubenville working on the house, so I just kind of happened to meet him. And it took a long time for you to pull it out of me that, like, I liked you. I was so nervous to acknowledge that I, like, I liked you and wanted to, you know, like, whatever,
date,
make it official. Yeah. And then I finally kind of said it in so many words, and you were like, okay, so great, so we're boyfriend, girlfriend. And then we high-fived. So it was like, it felt like 30 minutes of just like, I was so nervous, and I didn't know how to say how I was feeling. And then I finally spit out like the littlest thing to say, whatever it was. And you're like, okay, we're boyfriend, girlfriend. And then we high-fived. And that's our thing, high-fiving. And that's when it started.
Yeah.
Our high-fives. And then, yeah. Go ahead, you take over. I feel like I'm doing all the talking.
That's because you are. Okay, well, so then anyway, we started dating and got engaged in 3 months. We kind of knew we were going to get engaged, but we said we'll wait a couple months so that we don't have to hear about it as much.
Yeah, and Kyle came back with me for Christmas break to meet my family.
Right.
Which was kind of a thing. Like, oh, I'll meet your family before I propose.
Yeah. And then, from there, we got married 8 months later.
Our threes.
Oh, yeah. So we started dating December 3rd, engaged March 3rd, and then married November 3rd. And then, November 3rd, got pregnant with Cashman right away, had him in Steubenville still.
And his baptism day was August 3rd.
Yeah. In Steubenville. Yep.
And St. Peter's is where we did all our stuff.
And then we moved down here in, we left Steubenville October 31st.
It was starting to like lightly snow, wasn't it? Or no, it was raining.
Yeah, no, it was snowing.
It was snowing.
Yeah. Well, because we...
I believe it snows in October. I forgot that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Not 90-degree weather.
Yeah.
So 2 years to the day of the Halloween party. But anyway, so then we left and arrived in Florida on November 1st, and we've been here ever since.
That's crazy. So it was 2 years. So the Halloween party happened, and then 2 years later, we had been married, had a baby, and we're moving from Steubenville to Florida. Cashman was 3 months when we moved. I just remembered that I hadn't even met all of your siblings before we got engaged. So some of them I met right before we got engaged, and then some of them I met, and we were already engaged.
Right. Yeah. I'm the oldest, so their opinions were, very low on the totem pole of my decision-making progress.
Yeah. It's so funny. But they were all super nice.
Yeah. We went to Washington, D.C. for Easter, and that's, I think, where everybody was, right? Was Tyler there? Or did you just meet Tyler?
No, I was pregnant for that. I had met
that's right.
long before then.
Whoops. I met Tyler in South Carolina.
No, North Carolina.
Okay, so that's, okay. That's right.
I met Carson, Caroline, Carson, Caroline, and no, I met Alex. I was engaged when I met Alex and Lindsay.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you were engaged before you met everybody except Caroline.
And Carson. I met Carson.
Okay. Because you came to my parents.
Yeah, he was back visiting. But yeah, everyone else I think are already engaged.
Cool.
So it was like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm going to be your sister-in-law. Like, literally, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. What else we got?
It was so fun, though. Ugh, getting engaged and married is the best. How did the proposal happen? That's a good story.
Sure. How did the proposal happen? So we were in Steubenville, obviously, and we went to Pittsburgh for the day. We stopped off because you liked it.
You're not going to talk about how you faked me out about going to Pittsburgh like 5 times?
I forgot that.
Kyle brought me to Pittsburgh, I think 3 times or so.
Yeah.
To throw me off. So there were like 3 times we were going to Pittsburgh for like this special date, and I picked out an outfit and did my hair just in case. And because what happened was I knew you had the ring, and you kept doing these things where you were like, we'd be at your house, and you'd be like, the ring is upstairs. Like, I could just go get the ring and propose to you, which is funny because in hindsight, I'm like, should have just done that. Like, just gotten and get, Because I think our proposal was really nice, and it is nice having a little special. But anyway, so you kind of did these fake Pittsburgh trips.
So I forgot that.
Yeah, so that I didn't know when you were going to propose.
Gosh, I'm so romantic.
Yeah, and then, so go ahead. So then, you're going to break this cup.
No, it's wood.
Yeah,
it's not that hard.
So hard.
So we went to P.F. Chang's because you like P.F. Chang's, and it was terrible.
Yeah, it was really bad.
And I've never been a big fan of P.F. Chang's.
I hadn't been in a long time.
So I was nervous all day.
I thought Kyle was either upset at me for something or... So Kyle is a big, like, on the phone talker. He's on the phone talking to someone. Like, he calls people for everything, kind of. He just talks to his family a lot and to me a lot. It's nice. But he would be on the phone with his brother, the one that's closest in age to him, all the time. And I don't remember the details now, but I remember thinking he's either mad at me or he was talking to Alex about something, and I don't remember, but it was one of those 2 things. But I was anyways, he was definitely off. That's for sure.
Maybe
I thought you were mad about something, either towards me or something with something else. I don't really remember.
Yeah, well, so anyway, so we went to the downtown Pittsburgh, and I don't think we did anything else, did we, before...
No, we
just went to the Church St. Paul's Cathedral in Oakland.
You said you wanted to stop in for adoration.
Yeah, stop in for adoration. It's a really beautiful cathedral. And, then waited. Well, it was so funny because there were some tours going on or something. Yeah, so we were like praying forever.
We were in the pew.
Yeah.
We were in the pew, and Kyle was kneeling down. Oh, this is funny, too. Kyle was kneeling down praying, and I was kneeling down praying. And the way he phrased it was like, we'll do a quick... like stop in for adoration. I'll go be there for like 10 minutes or something. Yeah. And I was like, okay. So he's kneeling, I'm kneeling. I, like say my prayers. I sit back down because I'm like, okay. I'm kind of signaling to him like I'm done, waiting for him to be done. And he just kept kneeling there with his head down. And I was like, I was spiraling so hardcore. Like he's mad at me about something. Like something is wrong because he's just kneeling there for so long. And then that's what you were saying about the tour.
Oh yeah, there's some tours. There's like infinity people going in front of us.
And you were waiting for them to leave.
Yeah, I was waiting for them to leave. And I'd asked Olivia's roommate who does photography to come and sneak in to take a video and some pictures and stuff. And so anyway, they finally move over. They're still there. So actually they moved over. It's a very, very big church. So like if you're up at the kneelers or whatever at the edge of the altar sanctuary, like you could be over here and they're way over there. So they're kind of far, but they're still. So I was like trying to wait for them to get away, but then I couldn't wait anymore. So then
they were mostly away.
Yeah.
Do you want to light a candle?
Oh yeah.
You were like, do you want to go light a candle? And I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Because I thought he was mad at me. Now he wants to light a candle. And yeah, so we go up, we light a candle. And I think as I was lighting the candle is when you kind of like started pulling, like getting the ring out. And then you knelt down. And I'll never live this down. But I started hitting him. I think as you were
Yeah.
giving your little spiel that I
Yeah.
don't even remember.
Yeah.
'Cause
Spiel.
I was just like, you were kneeling down saying your thing, and I kind of was just like hitting him. Because in my mind, I was like, you're pranking. This is a prank. It's a
Yeah.
prank. And then finally you I think you opened the box, and then you pointed to Taylor to be like, no, it's real because Taylor's here. Take the video. And
I don't think, no, I think you realized it was real once I had the ring.
Yes, that makes way more sense. And then, but I love this too because I'm very much like things don't have to be big or fancy to be special.
Yeah.
And I'm still like that. Like I just want to hang out basically.
Yeah.
So we went to Kroger, picked out like a little miniature bottle of champagne and got like some chocolate. And then we just went back and watched a movie, and that was our little celebration. That was like perfect for me. So that's how we got engaged. And then we were basically like, let's get married as soon as possible because it's stupid to wait. And that's kind of been our theme through our early dating, engaged, and having kids is we have not waited at all.
Yeah.
How did we plan for marriage beyond just the wedding?
I think one thing that with going quick about everything, etc., is we certainly were of the mind that, you line up on the big things and everything else can be figured out. You make the commitment, that sort of thing. It was, of course, we got along with each other, etc. But
we had the same sense of humor and banter, which was, I think, big for both of us.
Yeah. But at the same time, so that it's just not, it doesn't take that much figuring,
Yeah, totally.
And then you kind of just figure out everything else beyond there. And then, of course, you have some ideas of we both wanted big family. I said to Olivia pretty early on that I would only live in the South.
Yeah, that was like the second time we ran into each other, or like third time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was very right off the bat.
So I would just,
That's actually a big topic or like a question I see a lot is when do you bring up those kinds of things? Like if you're dating, when do you bring up like how many kids?
Those sorts of things.
And like,
Yeah, I'm of the mind, of course, like the very first date. It also depends, right? If you're hanging out and being friends, those sorts of things can come up, and maybe they naturally come up. But if it's like a kind of old school date where somebody says, I don't really know you, but let's go on a date. On that first date, I don't think you need to be, bringing that sort of stuff up.
Yeah.
If it's your personality, you certainly can be. But that's also weird where if you just get there and you're I want 5 kids, or whatever.
That's kind of what happened to us though.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, but like you said, it's personality dependent.
Yeah. And, so but other than that, I would say very, very early, especially before the feelings get too far ahead of you.
Yeah.
And where you start settling into a relationship, you want to get those things figured out as early as possible.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, totally.
Big believers in that.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just wasting your time, and then like you said, risking heartbreak.
Yeah.
If you fall in love with someone and then they're like, by the way, I want you to be on birth control or something.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few things. One is certainly you want to date for marriage.
Yeah.
So when the marriage as a serious possibility, or not even a possibility, because I feel like so many people say, I could see myself marrying this person. But when you've come to the conclusion that this person is not a good candidate, right? So if you're marrying a woman and somebody is objectively not a good candidate to be a wife, or you might say, they'll be a good wife, but they're objectively not a good candidate to be a mother, right? Can people change? Yes. That's not your responsibility. Now, I do think it's a little different in the sense of if the man is more advanced than the woman, it's more natural for a woman to follow a man. So I think there's a little more leeway in where you are. So for instance, I would say a man dating a non-Catholic is not as much of an issue as a woman dating a non-Catholic. I would say to both, you should date a Catholic and, try. But men have a much easier time, and it's a much more ordered thing to convert your wife than the other way around.
Yeah.
So it's those sorts of things.
What was our wedding like? Big, small, traditional, etc.
We had it 8 hours from each of us. I guess my family was like 6-7 hours.
Yeah, because we got married in Steubenville.
Yeah, because that's where we were, and it just made the most sense logistically and things like that.
There were some things that like you typically do in weddings that we didn't do, which was like the bouquet toss and the garter toss.
Yeah.
Which I think is just so weird. We did things like, we bought our own speakers and made our own playlist. Yeah. Kyle was basically the DJ.
Yeah. Yeah, we tried to do as much as we could ourselves, to keep the cost down. Well, I will say this. If you can get a really, really good band, they're awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
A DJ is the most overpaid position of all time.
And they're almost always annoying.
Yeah, and I can't stand them, so that's what that's why I said I'll be DJ.
Yeah. Our first dance song, we were between two songs or two different versions of the same song.
No, I think two different songs.
Okay, we were between two different songs, and like I kind of liked one and Kyle kind of liked the other one. And I secretly recorded the one that he liked. I never liked the idea of like performing at my own wedding. I think it's weird.
Yeah.
And kind of like, oh, look at us, we got married, and also look at me, I can sing. I don't know, it's just weird, a little weird. So I pre-recorded it and then had it play over the speakers, and that was really special and fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, just kept it as simple as we could, and it was about getting married, not really the wedding.
Yeah.
So. Kyle cried a lot. It's like the only time I've seen you cry.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
It was honestly the sweetest thing because it's literally the only time I've seen you cry. The only other time I've ever seen you get a little bit choked up is the 2 times I told you I was pregnant. And it wasn't like a cry, but it was like glassy eyed.
Yeah.
And when Cashin got baptized, I remember you had like a little tear, like a little glassy eyed, not even tears. But yeah, that's actually one of my favorite memories because I just think it's the sweetest thing ever. It was just like, and it was a sweet cry too. Like it was just kind of like a smirk with tears. It wasn't like, oh. It wasn't dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right word is, but yeah. Is there anything we would have done differently looking back about
for the wedding? Yeah. So
we would have had a Latin mass.
Yeah. So
ceremony.
We were thinking about doing that already. So that was 2018. So that's kind of right as we were getting into the Latin mass only. And at the time, I wasn't like I would say where I am from a theological standpoint on the mass, and that is a unicorn mass, as they say.
The St. Peter's Mass that we went to.
Yeah, the nose sort of there. But a big reason we did was like, oh, nobody will understand it, nobody but this, and so we don't feel like,
Yeah.
So that was a mistake.
So we would have had the Latin Mass ceremony. I would have changed the colors of my bridesmaids' dresses. I would have worn a different wedding dress.
Yeah.
If we didn't have a videographer, we would be sitting here saying we wish we would have gotten a videographer.
For sure. Luckily, we did the videographer because that was the number one regret I had heard from several people.
All my siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very pleased with that. The reception was great. These lights that we had paid to have, like these Edison lights, were supposed to dim. And the guy forgot to put the dimmer.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember that.
He forgot to put the dimmer in. And
so it was bright when it...
So yes, we just unplugged some of them.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that. That's so funny.
And then the food was awesome, but they took it away too fast.
Yeah, that's so true. You pay for all the food, and then we had like 3 bites.
Yeah, they just took it away. But other than that, it was good. Very pleased with it. I mean, I would say if we had more time, like if we were like, oh, let's get married in 18 months, I probably would have even wanted to do it at sort of like a winery or bar, like because there were other places that were even cheaper. But with our timeline, that was kind of our best option. Yeah,
if you are dating and you're gonna like get engaged and married and stuff quick, don't feel weird about looking for venues immediately and booking a venue.
Yeah.
That would have been great. Like if we would have done that, just like booked but I guess we didn't have a wedding date though. I guess that's the tricky part.
We also moved our original date because my brother's military training business
Yeah, we wanted him to be there, and then ended up.
It got moved anyway.
Yeah.
All right, my dad texted me.
When did we start talking about having kids? Literally, the first time we went out to breakfast, you said something like, "How many kids do you want to have?" And I actually like that about Kyle. He's from New Jersey, and so he kind of has that Jersey like bluntness where he doesn't beat around the bush, and he just will like say it how it is. And I come from a family who's the opposite, and so but I actually appreciate and like you and your family being that way. Like, you're very much just like, no, that jacket is hideous, don't wear it. And I'm like, thank you. Like, that's great. That was very much how we got to know that we were on the same page with everything, because when we were on that first breakfast date, one of the first things Kyle said was like, so how many kids do you want to have? And I was like, I don't know, like 12, kind of joking, but through that like kind of funny bantery talking, we learned, and I was like, no, but I do want to have a lot, and I just want to have I think I said something, my mom had 7, so I at least have to tie with her. So yeah, that came up naturally just because of Kyle's personality, I would say. How did we feel when we found out we were pregnant for the first time? That one's funny because I was so convinced that I was not pregnant.
Oh yeah, that was so annoying.
Yeah, we were in. Well, you hear all the time like.
You can't know right away. Blah, blah,
Well, a couple things. We did our honeymoon in Mexico. Yeah, I got pregnant with Cashin while we were in Mexico, and I started getting crazy symptoms literally right away. I had terrible lower back pain. I was like, had to wake up to go to the bathroom. I don't know. I felt like I was literally dying and falling apart. Yeah. And Kyle was like, maybe you're pregnant. And I was like, you don't get symptoms. Because you don't get symptoms until you're 2 weeks along.
Yeah, well, I Googled it because there was no ChatGPT back then. And then it, it was all pregnant. But I was, at least at that point, I was like, there's no way, because I wouldn't be having symptoms this early. And there's like no way that you hear, oh, well, it might take a few months to get pregnant. You don't think it's really going to, it's such a huge thing that, at least for me, I had thought about my entire life, was becoming a mom. Yeah. And then I just got married. There's no way, like, I'm also now a mom too this soon. Yeah. I wanted to be, but I just kind of was in this denial. I think I also didn't want to get my hopes up. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but I always loved the idea of like a cute way to tell you that I was pregnant. Oh yeah. And so I think that was in my head too, like, no, I'm not, like, don't think I'm pregnant. I want to surprise you that I'm pregnant. Yeah. And so, and then Thanksgiving, which was a couple weeks later, I was like taking 2 naps a day and exhausted. And then we were in New Jersey with your family. And then when we got back to Steubenville, it was the first night we were back. Mm-hmm. And I had not gotten my cycle. And you were like, I'm going to get a test. And so you went and got a test. We have to end unexpectedly because we have to go get the boys. That was the Tradline.
I'm keeping that.